Welcome to the Versatile Hunter. On today's episode, what we're going to go over is how to dress for waterfowl hunting. Now, what I want to cover is how to create an entire system that you can use from the beginning of September for early Canada all the way to the end of those coldest late season hunts. So stick around and I'll show you how to do it. Let's get into the episode. All right, so with the end of waterfowl season coming around, you might be wondering, hey, why are you making this video now? Why are you talking about how to dress for waterfowl hunting at the end of waterfowl season? Well, the main reason is we don't want to wait until the last minute next year. So we want to get a head start on it now. We've got about 7 months until September rolls around, and then we'll be back out there smacking honkers. So what you need to do is take advantage of those end of season sales and get on your favorite websites, whether that's Camofire for sales, Bass Pro Shops, Cabela's, any of them, or direct from the manufacturer type sites, and start looking for those sales. So you don't want to pay full price if you don't have to, and you want to buy quality gear. Get the best you can afford, and you'll be happy and comfortable all season. So let's get into the gear. All right, so to remain our most comfortable throughout the season and throughout the hunt, especially on those really cold days, what we want to do is we want to go with the layering system. So if you're not familiar with layering, what it is you put on multiple layers of clothes to provide the warmth you need. But what this also lets you do is you can strip down layers throughout the hunt as the temperature rises or as the temperature drops. You can add and you can subtract to stay nice and warm. The issue with having one heavy coat or one heavy set of waders or just a heavy hat and you have just heavy outer layers is you end up getting real hot real quick, and sometimes it's too much, and that sweat can actually lead to hypothermia and death in a bad situation. So my personal recommendation is we want to start with our base layers, and for me, I wear wool. So my brand of choice when it comes to wool is -33. They're a relatively small company, and they're not so much in the hunting sphere as they are in the outdoor sphere. So a good tip for you guys is to actually look into non-hunting brands. You don't have to buy First Light wool, and you don't have to buy other hunting brands' wools, right? A lot of times they're marked up because they're directly targeting a group of people, the hunters, that see that name and they're used to paying that price for their outer layers. So go and look at other outdoor brands that are specific for trekking, camping, hiking, and things like that. That gear is just as good and sometimes better. So for my base layers, I like merino wool. I don't really like synthetics. One, synthetics usually end up stinking real bad. It's horrible when you're done with the hunt, and they just don't last and they don't work well when you're wet. I've used Under Armour stuff in the past and I'm not a big fan of it. If you are, cool, I'm not hating on it. So we'll start from the feet and we'll work our way up. So I like to use just a pair of merino wool socks from -33. And outside of when it's really hot, like in the September hunts and things like that, I'll just wear anything. But once it gets cold, I'll wear -33 socks and my feet don't get cold. The wool is moisture wicking, so it takes that moisture away from you to help keep your feet warm. And it also retains heat when you're wet. So if you fall in the water or you end up sweating really bad, it'll actually still keep you warm. So always wear merino wool on my feet. That's my go-to. And then what I do is I wear a wool style, like long john kind of deal. I wear these on my legs. And then I wear a shirt, and it's almost just like a long sleeve t-shirt. And this is what I wear year round. Now, when it's like September 1st and you're talking about in the 90s, yeah, I'm not wearing wool. But once we get into those October hunts and later, I start wearing wool. And the thing with this base layer system is that instead of wearing one heavy coat, a set of heavy like pants and heavy insulated waders and insulated boots and all that, that's going to keep you warm, keep you maybe toasty warm. But then if you start moving, you're going to start sweating. And what happens if it's not in the negatives, or what happens if it's not super cold? And now you're actually uncomfortable because you're so warm and you're sweating, and now your temperature is plummeting and you can potentially get hypothermia. So my recommendation is build a layered system which starts with base layer of wool, and then we'll build from there. And we can use this from the minute we need any warmth all the way until the coldest hunts. So the next thing that we want to talk about is actually going to be our waders and how we want to go with those, right? So for me, what I do is I get my base layers on, and that's where I start my building from. And the next thing I put on is my waders. Now, if it's really cold, I'll sometimes just wear a normal pair of pants in between my waders and my merino wool, and that's just to stop some of the contact temperature from the water as I'm walking in, because my waders are breathable waders, and that's actually what I recommend for you. So let me bend down, I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right, so what brand of waders you go with and what style you go with, whether you go with breathable, hybrids, or neoprene, that's going to be all up to you. But my personal recommendation is to go with a pair of breathable waders. So in my experience, the neoprene waders, every pair I've ever used has gotten a crotch root leak. Whether it's the first time out, 10th time out, or whatever at the end of the season. There's nothing worse than when you're going in thinking you're going to be nice and dry, and your waders that you paid upwards of $300 for start leaking. Also, with neoprene waders, they tend to be really warm, which can be a good thing, but if you're layering properly, you don't need that. You don't need that additional warmth. Because when you go out for wood duck season, teal season, goose season in September, and it's 80, 70 degrees, and you're in insulated waders because that's what you own, you're not going to be a happy guy when you're walking in a mile to the wood duck hole, or walking a mile in to the teal hole, or whatever your case is you're hunting. So my recommendation, go with the brand of your choice, doesn't matter to me, is to get yourself a pair of waders that are breathable. So these just happen to be a pair of Cabela's brand breathable waders, and they're actually at the waist. I ripped a pair of waders and I need a pair, and this is what I got. I've got another pair of chest waders that are lacrosse, and I really enjoy those as well. So what the benefit to the breathable waders is as you can see, they're real light, and they act almost like wind pants, right? So walking in these things is so much better. It's so much easier and so much more normal than walking in neoprene waders. If you're an experienced duck hunter and you walk for where you go, and you've ever walked anywhere in waders, it's miserable. And not to mention, it's hard to get your leg up. It's hard to walk through swamps. It's just miserable. The extra savings you get by buying neoprene waders, they're non-existent because you're going to end up having to replace them almost every season. So my recommendation is to go with these breathable waders. Now, if you're an experienced duck hunter, or if you're a new duck hunter, you might be thinking, hey, but these aren't insulated. Yeah, that's right. And that's actually the benefit to them, because when it's 90 degrees out, I'm not sweating to death because I'm in these, right? They're breathable, which means that they let the moisture and the heat out, but they don't let them in. So it's actually super nice to wear the breathable waders. And if you're putting on the proper layers and not just relying on your waders to keep you warm, you're not going to have any issues. So this last season, it was about 19 degrees with a wind chill of 8, and the ice was actually freezing on my waders. But because I utilized the system that I'm going over with you now, I wasn't cold. I was happy, I was comfortable, and it could have been any day for me. So just think about that when you're looking into waders. I know there's going to be an issue with price, and breathable waders tend to be more expensive, but you get what you pay for. Look for sales, go on sites like Camo Fire and other things, utilize discounts if you're military or law enforcement or whatever the case is, and get the best you can buy that are going to keep you comfortable, mobile, and safe. Next up on the list is going to be our jacket, our outer layer. Now, our jacket's important, and I actually utilize 2 separate jackets when it comes to my layering system. And the reason for that is that you don't want to get too bulky with your under layers, and we'll talk about that. We don't want to end up like the kid on Christmas Story.
Kid! Get up! I can't get up!
So I utilize 2 jackets, and one of them is just this Cabela's jacket, and it's got no insulation in it, right? There's no insulation in this thing at all. It's just a wind-resistant, water-resistant jacket, and it's got camouflage. And the reason I use this is because we all know, and if you're a new duck hunter, you'll learn real quick, that rainy days, we're out there grinding. We're in the water, we fall. The water resistance is nice. We're paddling in the kayaks, the water resistance is nice. So I utilize this jacket with the layering system that I use up until about the 50, 40 degree mark, and then I go to my next jacket, which I'll show you here. So this is the jacket that I use most of the season. This is a Sitka jacket. I'm not sure what the actual model is, but it's besides the point. So this is a Sitka jacket. Now, any of you who duck hunt know these are extremely expensive. I didn't pay full price, and neither should you. You can frequently find things like this in the bargain bin, on sales, used. I got this on Camo Fire for half off. So instead of paying $500 for a jacket, you can pay $250, maybe $300, which I know that's a lot of money, but it beats being miserable when you're out there in the field. There's nothing worse than not seeing ducks and being cold and being tired. So at least you can control one of those and be nice and comfortable. So the best thing about this jacket is it's extremely waterproof. I've fallen in the water before and I didn't stay submerged, right? I got out of the water and I was relatively dry other than on my arms. So the reason that works is it's got this PVC sleeve that really comes down. Now this jacket's really warm by itself. So when it's like 40 degrees, I won't even wear anything other than this jacket and my wool pants, my socks, and my waders, and of course a hat, right? Highly recommend Sitka if you have the financial ability to buy it. If not, buy the best waterproof, wind-resistant jacket you can buy. This is going to be one of the most important parts of your layering system, because if it's drizzling, if it's raining, you get wet, everything goes out the window. So stay dry. That'll keep you comfortable. That'll keep you alive. Okay, so at this point, we've gone over our legs and our torso. Now we got to go over one of the most important things in duck hunting, and that's your hat. And the reason I say that is because we don't want to pie-faced birds, and we don't want our head to get cold. We lose a lot of warmth from our ears and our head, and we've got to stay cold. So I actually have 3 hats that I utilize throughout the season. And this is going to depend on wind chill, temperature, and the sun. So in the early season, what I'm doing is I'm just wearing a ball cap like this, just a standard ball cap in a camouflage pattern, stops the sun, don't need to worry about the heat or anything along those lines, because we're talking about September, potentially early October hunts. And all I want is to break up my human silhouette and to put some camouflage on my head. So I just use a standard camouflage hat. You don't need anything special. And look, no matter what the industry says, you don't need camouflage. A brown jacket works fine. That's what natural camouflage looks like anyway. A deer's not camouflage. A duck's not camouflage. They're brown. So if you can't find camouflage, or like the camouflage pattern is $10 more on your hat, just get a brown hat. You'll be good to go. So speaking of brown hats, my next hat that I utilize is this First Light wool hat. So same reason that I like wool on my body is the same reason I like wool on my head. Now the downside to this hat is that it's wool. It is not water resistant at all. So if it's raining, this is not a great hat to have. It's not bad if it's a light drizzle, but if it's a downpour and you're trying to work your way through it, this can get in the way. But for me, this is a medium range hat, and I've worn this hat out until about the 20-degree mark, and I was just fine. If you watched my float hunting goose trip video, which I'm gonna post right here for you, this is the hat that I wore, and it was 19 degrees with a wind chill of 8. This hat works. This hat's about $40, and it's worth the money. Now, when it gets really cold and really extreme, I've got a Sitka hat. And the reason I like this, even though it's artificial, is that it's extraordinarily warm, and it's a water-resistant wind stopper hat. So if it's raining, it's gonna stop my head from getting wet. Now, some of it's gonna drip down my face and all that, but you've got a hood on your jacket as well. And this is gonna stop the wind. So on those really windy days, this is the way to go. Again, I didn't pay full price for this. I found it at Cabela's on sale. So if you do your homework and you do your research, you can find those sales and get quality gear for lower than you think. So you don't have to go with a 3-hat approach, but that's just what I go with, and it works really well. And the thing with hats are, they're small. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll actually have both hats on me at a time, because I can fit them both in my blind bag with no issues. And then if it starts raining or if it gets really windy, I'll pull this hat out. If it's sunny and it's decent out, other than just the cold, I'll put this hat on. And if it's really cold, what I'll do, and this is rare, but it happens when the rivers and stuff start freezing, is that if you do it right, you can layer your hats as well. and I just put both hats on, and I'm good until the negatives. And so look into that. Everything should be layered and everything should be modular, and you're gonna have a comfortable season. And so, hey, you said that not to have just a warm jacket. Just a warm jacket isn't good, and that's right. So other than my merino wool base layers and my Sitka jacket, what I do is I actually wear down or artificial down jackets. So I have two, and the great thing about these is they can be layered on each other, and they can be also used in different areas. So what I have, and going back to the wool argument of you don't need to buy a hunting, is this is an LL Bean jacket, this is an Eddie Bauer jacket. You don't have to buy a hunting brand, find what's best deal. So this one is a goose down, actual goose down vest. And what's good about the vest is that if it's not so cold that I need the sleeves, I can take this vest, put it on, and I can utilize it for either jacket. If it's not cold enough for the Sitka jacket by itself, I can put this vest on and put on my Cabela's rain jacket, and I'm good to go. Or if it's too cold for just the Sitka jacket, I can throw my vest on and put it on underneath it. And since the vest compacts, it's small, it's lightweight, it's not a big deal, it doesn't get in the way. Also, since these vests are extremely small, you can just ball them up and put it in your blind bag if you have extra space. Like, that doesn't take a lot of room. So you can always have this on you as opposed to wearing like a hoodie and an extra jacket or like two jackets. If you go the vest route, it's gonna keep your core extremely warm. Your arms are usually not the issue. It's usually your core that's the issue on bringing you cold, right? So when it's even colder, what I do is I have this. This is an artificial down jacket. It's used like a loft material, Permaloft or something like that. And I can utilize this, so I can put this jacket on underneath my Sitka jacket, right? And I have this on. I'm not gonna zip it up because of the mic, but so I have this on, and then if it's extremely cold, without taking up any room at all, now I can get my vest on, and you're good to go. With that system, with the wool, the jacket, the down vest, and an outer coat, you're going to be good. My core isn't what gets cold when I'm out hunting. It's usually my feet and my hands. So if you go with this, you have a system approach, and you can mix and match, plug and play based on the weather conditions, the wind, and the temperature, and how much movement you're actually going to be doing. And since they are not big, bulky items, you can take them, put them up, put them in a bag, take them off, and you'll be comfortable all day. And that way you're not sweating or you're not freezing to death. So it's a great way to go. We want to layer everything, keep it modular, keep it light, keep it mobile. So anyone who duck hunts, and you new duck hunters are going to find out real quick that your hands get wet and your hands get cold quick. So I'll not wear gloves a lot of times until it reaches about the 45-degree mark. I'll just keep them in my pockets. But after a while, it gets to the point where just touching your gun is cold, paddling your kayak or your canoe is cold, the wind's ripping through. So again, I have a layered approach to gloves. So the first layer on those is I have these First Light fingerless wool gloves. If you can't tell, I'm a really big fan of wool because these things keep you warm when it's wet and they're real small and light. So these gloves are a fingerless glove. So the top of your fingers are exposed, which to move them well, they don't get away, they're not bulky at all, but they keep your hands warm. The only time I ever have to go past this is if I'm stationary, like I'm hunting on the big water for divers, or I'm hunting puddle ducks and I'm not actively moving in my canoe, or I'm in my kayak, or trying to jump shoot birds. So these are really comfortable. If you watch the goose hunt video I did and some of the other ones, I wear these up until about 20 degrees, and then I start putting on other gloves. So my second set of gloves are these. Again, these are First Light gloves, and these are a synthetic material, but I can take these gloves I have on and go right over them, right? So now with these on, I have a wind resistant, water resistant glove with a wool layer underneath them. Your hands will be toasty warm in these things for a while. One of the only big downsides is they've got these blaze orange on here. I've never flared birds because of it, so I wouldn't stress over it. But these are a good, high quality glove. They're not expensive, and your hands are gonna be really warm and they're gonna stay dry. Now, they're not waterproof. If you put your hands in the water and leave them there, they're gonna soak through. If you're sitting through a torrential downpour waiting for it to pass over, and you don't hide these things, tuck them away in your jacket or in your waders, they're gonna get wet. But they're a drizzle, a slight rain, if you just fall in real quick, if you're paddling your kayak, these are gonna stay dry, these are gonna keep you warm, and warm hands are happy hands, and happy hands are a happy person. So make sure you have gloves and do a layered approach so that way you can go as the day goes, because in the morning it's cold, in the evening it's not. And neither of these take up a lot of room, so I just keep them in my blind bag when I know it's cold outside. So last piece to my layering system is just, in the fly fishing community, it's called a buff, a net gator, whatever you want to call it, right? This is nothing special. This is like a $20 net gator from Kilt or something like that, right? And it's just thin material. It's not wool. It's nothing. And all this does is it acts in two parts, right? So you just take it and put it over your head, and it goes over your neck, and it will also cover your face while you're out there duck hunting. Now what this does is it just keeps your neck warm and it stops the wind, right? This thing's not super warm, it's not super wind resistant, but a lot of us forget about our neck, right? And we leave our neck exposed. We've got multiple layers of gloves on and we've got this whole layering system, but we forget our neck and we end up being cold. So wear this, it'll keep your neck warm, it'll keep your face warm, and it'll keep you overall happy. Surprisingly, just adding a thin little buff like this has kept me much more comfortable than not having it. So I would not go duck hunting without one of these. It's really lightweight and it's a good way to go. And if you keep this thing in your bag and you forget a hat, it's no big deal. You just put this thing on like a headband and now your face and your head's concealed. So it's a great way to go. All right, guys, so that is my personal approach to creating a layered waterfowl hunting system that will keep you comfortable from 60 degrees to below that, talking 0 and below, right? We want to be comfortable when we're hunting. We're already going to be miserable because we're waking up at the super early, we're getting out there traveling. Depending on what flyway you're in or where you're hunting, you may not have a lot of days and you want to be as happy as can be, and you may not have a lot of birds, so you might as well be comfortable. So let me know down below in the comments, what do you think? Do you go with a layering system or do you go with big outer layers? Do you think my layering system is a good idea? Or do you do something different? Let me know down below because I'm not fixated on my way. It may not be the best. If you liked the video, I'd appreciate if you could give me a thumbs up. And remember, be safe, have fun, and please join a conservation organization. There'll be a link down in the description. Check them out. They help us maintain the ability to hunt and fish and have healthy forests. Thanks for watching.